Imagine looking at your dashboard at the end of a blistering July. I mean, you've just had this record call volume, your trucks haven't stopped rolling for a month, and you feel like, you're finally conquering your market.
Yeah, it feels great in the moment.
Right. But then you dig into the data and realize that $40,000 of your hard-earned ad spend just, well, completely evaporated into thin air.
It's gone.
Yeah, you were paying for leads, your crews couldn't even service, and you didn't even notice because the phones were just ringing so loud. So, welcome to the deep dive. It is July 7th, 2026, and if you are running a contracting or design-focused business right now, that scenario might be hitting a little too close to home.
It's totally the defining paradox of the peak season.
Mm-hmm.
You are generating revenue, but you're also bleeding capital and burning out your team in ways that are, well, they're entirely masked by the sheer volume of daily activity.
We've been seeing this a lot lately with contractors. It's the absolute peak of the summer rush. Your phone is ringing off the hook. Your crews are booked solid like 6 weeks out.
Oh, yeah, totally slammed.
Right. And if we were to walk into your front office right now, your staff is probably completely overwhelmed, just trying to keep their heads above water. On the surface, it feels incredible.
But it's stressful.
Exactly. If we pull back the curtain, there is this immense underlying stress. Because while some days you land those massive, really profitable projects, other days are just a total grind.
Yeah, you're fielding all these low-quality leads.
Yes, you're losing out on bids to, cheaper guys working out of their pickup trucks. You're dealing with endless price shoppers. And your highest paid technicians are out there fielding non-billable warranty questions, which is just crazy.
Which is exactly why we need to have this conversation now. We want to take you inside our internal strategy discussions here at Atrium. We act as a growth partner for businesses exactly like yours, and our entire focus is on building systems.
Systems that create consistent work, right?
Right. Consistent, predictable work, rather than just riding that chaotic wave of seasonal referrals. Because honestly, a booming July is the absolute most dangerous time to assess the structural health of your business. Massive seasonal volume just acts like a smokescreen.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I want to give you an analogy for what this actually feels like operationally. It's like driving a car down the highway at 100 miles an hour.
Okay, like this.
The windows are down, the wind is roaring, the engine is screaming, and you feel like you are making incredible time. But because of all that noise and sheer momentum, you can't hear the transmission slowly grinding its gears to dust.
The speed completely masks the friction.
Exactly. You won't notice that the entire system is failing until you inevitably stall out on the side of the road in October. But I have to push back on this a little bit, just playing devil's advocate here.
Shit.
If the crews are booked out for 6 weeks and the dispatch board is completely lit up, I mean, isn't that the whole point of our marketing? Who cares if there's a little operational friction if the calendar's packed and the cash is flowing?
Well, what's fascinating here is the critical distinction between seasonal demand and structural health. They're not the same thing at all, though they constantly disguise themselves as each other during a busy season.
Right, because one is just the weather.
Exactly. Think about the underlying mechanism of that demand. A chimney company is going to see massive organic spikes in November when the first freeze hits. Or, an HVAC company sees massive cooling demand during a prolonged July heat wave.
Yeah, people are sweating.
Right. That is just the weather driving your business. But we have to look at the danger of what I call algorithmic complacency.
Algorithmic complacency. Break that down for me. What does that actually look like?
So when it's 100 degrees outside, Google's advertising algorithm looks like an absolute genius. It feeds you incredibly easy, low-hanging conversions because people are desperate.
Oh, because their AC is broken and they just need it fixed today.
Exactly. They will literally click the first ad they see. But the danger is that your ad account gets trained to only optimize for those panic buyers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the algorithm completely stops doing the hard work of finding high-ticket, deliberate buyers. The people planning a full system replacement or a major home remodel.
It gets lazy.
It gets very lazy. So when the weather finally cools down and the panic buyers disappear, your marketing system has forgotten how to actually hunt for premium work.
Because it's only been looking for the easy stuff.
Right. If you are relying on the weather to fill your calendar, you don't actually have a marketing system. You have a structural vulnerability.
That makes perfect sense. The weather is doing all the heavy lifting, not your actual business systems. And when the weather changes, you're left holding the bag with an ad account that only knows how to find people who are already desperate.
And that leads to very specific danger signs that we look for when we audit a business during these peak times.
Mhm.
We look way past the raw call volume and examine the margins.
Because the margins tell the real story.
Always. We see booked jobs staying completely flat month over month while the actual cost to acquire those jobs just continues to climb. We see crews staying busy, but when you trace the revenue, they are just chewing through old backlog.
Rather than closing fresh, high-margin work.
Exactly. We see identical marketing expenses producing fewer profitable jobs each month. These are massive structural failures. But because the dispatchers are fielding like 50 calls a day, the owner just assumes the machine is running flawlessly.
Which is the perfect pivot to what we actually uncover when we pull back the dashboard and look at the raw data. Diego, one of our colleagues here at Atrium, mentioned this exact blind spot when we were reviewing campaigns inside a client's Service Titan dashboard just the other day.
Oh yeah, that was a wild one.
It really was. On paper, for this specific client, July looked like the best month of their entire fiscal year. The raw call volume was off the charts. But when Diego and the team actually started digging into the call logs, listening to the recordings, and tracking the disposition codes, it was a completely different story.
The sheer volume of waste was staggering.
Yeah. The company was paying premium dollar for hundreds of inbound calls that were absolute operational dead ends.
And the hidden cost of those dead ends isn't just the ad spend, right? It's the operational bottleneck they create for the whole team.
Exactly. Here's where it gets really interesting. The team discovered that nearly $40,000 in annual ad spend was going to ZIP codes that his crews rarely, if ever, actually service.
Ready grand. Just gone.
Just gone. And we need to talk about how a $40,000 leak actually happens. Because it isn't just someone being careless at a keyboard. It's a fundamental disconnect between the marketing platform and the dispatch software.
Precisely. It happens because of how broad match keywords and geographic targeting function under pressure. Google might see high search intent for your services in a 50-mile radius.
Right.
And during a busy season, it aggressively bids on those searches to get you the clicks you asked for. But your dispatch software and your actual operational reality might be strictly zoned for a 20-mile radius just to keep your trucks efficient.
So the systems aren't talking to each other.
Right. The advertising API isn't communicating with your dispatch reality. The result is that you are paying top dollar for clicks 30 miles outside of your actual service zone.
And think about the ripple effect of that single bad click. That out-of-zone lead calls in. Your dispatcher, who is already super stressed, spends 8 minutes on the phone explaining that you don't service their area.
Wasting valuable time.
Right. And during those 8 minutes, the phone rings from a homeowner 10 miles away who wants a $20,000 installation. But your dispatcher is tied up, so that premium buyer goes to voicemail, and they immediately call your competitor.
That is the invisible cost of friction. The business is actively failing at 3 critical operational components: filtering, tracking, and follow-up.
Yeah.
In the worst-case scenarios we audit, almost half of the incoming calls never had a realistic chance of becoming paying work.
Half. That's insane.
It is. Your frontline office staff, your CSRs, they're essentially doing triage instead of sales.
Oh.
They're spending half their time politely rejecting people who will never give you a single dollar.
Which leads to burnout.
Huge burnout,
Which
which leads to poor customer service for the people who actually want to hire you.
half those calls. I mean, you are paying a platform for 100 leads, and 50 of them are junk before the phone even rings, just based on geography or intent.
Yep.
And that creates this incredibly common, almost visceral reaction from business owners. Because even if an owner doesn't know the exact data, they have a gut feeling. They feel the chaos in the office.
They know something is wrong.
Right. They sense the inefficiency, even if they haven't pinpointed the $40,000 ZIP code leak yet. And their immediate human instinct is to just tear everything down.
Burn it to the ground.
Yeah, they want to fire their current agency, switch advertising platforms entirely, rebuild the website from scratch, or completely overhaul their brand messaging right in the middle of a Tuesday afternoon rush.
Which is just, it's the absolute worst time to execute a mid-season pivot.
Mm.
Owners have to understand that your busiest month is profoundly unreliable for measuring the core performance of your marketing.
Because the data is messy.
Exactly. The data is entirely skewed by pure volume, panic buyers, and stressed internal operations. You cannot make a clear-headed strategic shift when you are standing in the middle of a hurricane.
But, I mean, July has to be good for something, right?
What July is actually good for is being the best time to collect pristine data. You gather the intelligence under maximum load so you can act on it strategically when the dust actually settles.
Well, I have to push back here because this is where theory meets reality. If I'm sitting in the Atrium war room with a client and we just showed them that they are blowing $40,000 on the wrong ZIP codes, human nature takes over.
Oh, for sure.
My instinct as an owner would be to burn it all down today. Switch the ads off, fire up a new campaign, change the landing pages. How do you talk a client off the ledge when they are staring at that kind of waste in the middle of the busy season?
It's tough.
Are you telling me we just look at that leak and let it ride because it's July?
This raises an important question, and it's where we have to be incredibly surgical as growth partners. There is a massive nuance between stopping the bleeding and rebuilding the patient.
Okay, I like that distinction.
You absolutely cut the obvious hemorrhagic waste immediately.
Mm-hmm.
If you find a ZIP code that is 50 miles outside your service radius, you isolate it and turn off the spend for that zone today.
Right, you stop the bleeding.
Exactly. If you have a specific ad variation that explicitly attracts low-budget price shoppers, and you are trying to position yourself as a premium service provider, you kill that ad today. But you do not completely overhaul your core lead generation system or attempt to migrate to a new CRM when your technicians are already booked 6 weeks out.
Because if you try to rebuild the transmission while you're driving 100 miles an hour down the highway, you are going to crash the entire vehicle.
Exactly. The focus has to shift inward. Instead of changing the marketing vehicle, you focus entirely on your internal operations. You fix the obvious leaks in the marketing, but you spend your energy tightening the operational screws.
So if we aren't rebuilding the marketing engine from scratch right now, what exactly are we doing to fix this? This is where we transition from simply diagnosing the problem to how we actually approach the solution here at Atrium.
Right, the actual fix.
Because our entire philosophy is built on systems over spikes. We don't want you living month to month based on the latest weather report or referral wave. We want predictable, sustainable growth.
And that requires a fundamental shift in mindset. You have to move away from the obsession with chasing more leads and transition to relentlessly understanding and optimizing the leads you are already generating.
Optimization over volume.
Always. If you want to survive the slow months, the months when the weather isn't bailing you out and the organic phone calls dry up, you must intimately understand 4 critical operational metrics. If you know these 4 numbers, you have a system. If you don't, you are flying blind.
Okay, let's break those down because this is the core of how we stabilize a business. The first one has to be cost, right? But I assume we aren't just talking about a basic cost per click vanity metric here.
Not at all. Number 1 is your cost to produce a booked revenue-generating job.
A booked job, specifically.
Right. I honestly don't care what it costs to get the phone to ring. Cost per lead is a vanity metric that hides operational failure. What does it actually cost in hard marketing dollars to get a signed, scheduled, paying job on the calendar?
Because when you measure cost per booked job, you naturally filter out all the garbage.
Exactly. You filter out the warranty calls, the out-of-area time wasters, and the price shoppers.
Which is such a massive distinction for business owners to grasp. I mean, a $10 lead that requires 4 phone calls but never actually closes is infinitely more expensive than a $100 lead that seamlessly turns into a $15,000 installation.
Without a doubt.
The cheap lead costs you time, morale, and opportunity. The expensive lead builds your business.
Okay, so once we know what it costs to actually put a job on the board, what's number 2?
Number 2 is your estimate approval rate.
Okay.
This isolates the performance of your field team. Once your technician or sales rep actually gets into the home and provides a professional quote, how many of those quotes are converting into signed contracts?
Oh, so it shifts from marketing to sales.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If your marketing system brings in 100 qualified leads and you quote 80 of them, but only 10 approve the work, your marketing might be doing exactly what it's supposed to do. The break in the chain is your pricing structure, your in-home sales presentation, or your technicians failing to build trust. That isolates the problem so perfectly. It stops the owner from yelling at the marketing agency when the real issue is that their top technician just needs some basic sales training.
Exactly. All right, let's move to number 3.
What is it?
Speed to lead. This is purely about algorithmic reality and consumer psychology.
Especially with those panic buyers we talked about?
Yes. In a highly competitive market, especially during a busy season when homeowners are stressed out, the first company to answer the phone or reply to the web form almost always wins the job.
Always.
If a homeowner submits a request for a quote and it takes your office 4 hours to return that call, you aren't actually in the game anymore.
No, they're gone.
They've already booked an inspection with the competitor who called them back in 5 minutes.
The panic buyer doesn't have brand loyalty. They just have a timeline. If you aren't first, you're just practice for their actual contractor. And that brings us to number 4.
Number 4.
Which honestly might be the operational failure we see the most often when we look under the hood of a new client's business.
Follow-up consistency after every single estimate.
Yes.
If a homeowner looks at a quote and says, this looks great, but I really need to talk to my spouse and think about it. What happens next in your business? Does someone from your office call them 2 days later? A week later?
Usually neither.
Right. Or does that expensive, highly qualified estimate just disappear into a digital filing cabinet, never to be seen again?
This one drives me absolutely crazy because the waste is so avoidable. Andrea, another one of our colleagues here, actually pointed this out when we were restructuring a client's CRM recently.
Check that one.
Yeah, we were auditing their system, and we found hundreds of thousands of dollars in open, highly qualified estimates just sitting there completely untouched for over 3 weeks.
Unbelievable.
And the most frustrating part, it wasn't because the team was lazy. It was simply because nobody in the office actually owned the follow-up process.
The bystander effect in business operations.
Exactly that. The dispatcher thought the field technician was doing the follow-up. The technician thought the sales manager was handling it. The sales manager assumed the front office was doing it.
Right.
Because everybody was responsible, nobody was responsible.
We see that everywhere.
We've tested this across dozens of campaigns and varying markets. You can take a client and completely double their monthly ad budget, driving hundreds of new calls. But if no one is systematically following up on the estimates you are generating, you aren't growing.
Not at all.
You are just paying premium prices to generate leads that sit in a digital graveyard.
It is the absolute definition of operational waste. And it reinforces a core belief we hold fundamentally at Atrium. Cleaner systems will always beat more advertising.
Always.
You rarely need to double your marketing budget. What you need to do is review your call recordings to see how your CSRs are actually handling objections on the front lines.
Right.
You need to verify that a booked inspection is actually being routed to the specific technician with the highest historical close rate for that exact type of job. You need to utilize your software properly to trigger automated SMS and email follow-ups the literal moment an estimate sits stagnant for 48 hours.
It's entirely about tightening the screws on the machine you already own rather than constantly trying to buy a bigger, more expensive machine. Because, a bigger machine with the same leaks just loses money faster.
And the beautiful thing about this operational approach is the compounded result. If you spend July and August fixing these internal systems, cleaning up the dispatch routing, auditing the geographic call logs, assigning clear ownership for estimate follow-ups, and mastering those 4 critical numbers, you completely change the trajectory of your fourth quarter.
You set yourself up for winter.
Exactly. By the time the slow season arrives in October or November, you don't experience that terrifying cliff-edge drop-off in revenue. You enter the slow season with a much steadier pipeline of booked jobs, and you achieve that without having to artificially crank up your monthly ad budget to compensate for the sudden lack of weather-driven demand.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? If you are a contractor or you run a design-focused business and you are running incredibly hard right now just trying to keep up with the summer rush, you need to take a breath.
Just pause for a second.
You need to stop looking at your total inbound call volume as the ultimate metric of your company's success. Instead, you need to start actively looking at where capital and opportunity are quietly leaking out of your daily operations. Look at the unclosed estimates sitting in your software. Look at the ad spend going to bad ZIP codes. Look at the slow response times dragging down your conversion rates.
The sheer volume of the season is actively blinding you to the structural leaks.
If you're trying to get more consistent, better projects, and not just spikes in call volume, that's exactly what we help with at Atrium. You can check us out at creativeatrium.com, and we can help you understand where your jobs are being won and lost.
I'll leave you with this. If we connect this to the bigger picture of your business legacy, think about this when the weather finally turns and that massive, easy seasonal demand completely dries up this October. Will your business have a predictable, measurable operational system you can rely on to generate high-ticket work? Or will you wake up one crisp autumn morning and realize you've been flying blind since July?
Because right now, you might feel like you're making incredible time flying down the highway at 100 miles an hour. Just make sure you actually check the structural health of the engine before you hit the wide-open road of the slow season. Thanks for joining us in the War Room today. We'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.